journey through the stories that define the artists playing Bonnaroo. Who are they? What are they? What will you see? The what? Which bands? This year, that matter.
Yay.
With Brad Steiner and Barry Corder.
A podcast for Bonnaroovians by Bonnaroovians. Welcome to the What Podcast. I can't believe we're still talking about Bonnaroo. Barry Corder, Bonnaroovian A, Lord Taco, joining us. I'm Brad Steiner. Now, if you're watching at home via your social media device box, don't adjust your screen. There are not two Barry Corders with us today. No, not two, just one Barry Corder.
That's the beard I want to become.
I know. You've got a lot of work to do, my friend.
That's a grown-ass beard right there.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah. No kidding.
Mine is more because it pisses my wife off. and I like doing this a lot. So
Yeah, I think you get to an age where, and it's definitely around Barry Corder age, where, you know, life becomes a lot of just contemplation of what you could have been doing at some point, more than right now.
That's the whole
See?
Kill Bill thing.
Yeah.
small battles. You got to pick and choose.
Yeah. You got to what and choose?
Pick and choose.
Pick and choose.
Choose your battles.
Lord Taco, how are you, buddy? How's your birthday? By the way, it's Lord Taco's birthday, everyone.
It was Friday. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Belated.
Appreciate it.
birthday.
Yeah,
Should we
41.
introduce David? Brad, now
Yeah.
that you talked about his beard, should we introduce who
Oh,
he-
yeah. I forgot about it. I got to actually do the introduction. Huh? Go ahead.
I'll let Taco do it. Taco and David became friends. Tell us how you became friends. It's a great story.
Well, David does the I Am Bonnaroo film project on Instagram. If you've probably looked through Bonnaroo pictures, you've probably seen him. He tags us a lot in his pictures. And last June, we went down to the Speakeasy Bonnaroo, hosted by Roo Fitness and the Roo Bus. And bumped into him there. Had never actually know what he looks like. So, you know, he had to introduce himself and say who he was. And I was like, oh, wow, I follow you. I see all your pictures. So from then on, we just spent the whole weekend together hanging out. I saw him, you know, shoot some people with his camera.
Thank you.
Yeah, had to clarify.
Yeah.
But we had a great weekend and shared a lot of stories and, you know, decided he'd be a good guest to have on the show and talk about.
David, did you sign the bus anywhere inside the bus? Did you sign?
You know-
Because that's what happens when somebody gets in that bus.
Yeah. I was actually asked to sign the bus, and it was an honor.
Okay,
As a matter
good.
of fact, somebody posted a photo from the inside of the bus on Instagram. I can't remember who it was, but I literally tried to zoom in on the phone to see if I could see my
Uh-huh.
I told myself, there it is, right there. I can't read it, but I know that's it. You know?
That's it. That's it.
There's so many layers to this, but you drove from where? Upstate New York? I mean,
Yeah.
for that weekend. I mean, that's
I really did, yeah. So I got an invite to that shindig, which I was, felt very honored for that invite because I knew it was a limited thing. It was kind of a hush-hush thing because of the whole COVID thing. And I really wanted to go. I got my wife's blessing to go, which was a giant step forward. She's my biggest supporter in everything that I do regarding this. And I literally decided a week and a half before the event. I mean, the hype started to build on the Facebook page about the event, and I could see what was happening. And I thought to myself, wow, this is actually going to be pretty legit. And in lieu of not being at Bonnaroo this weekend, I'm going to go down and I'm going to see what's happening. And I mean, I literally drove about 1,000 miles down.
Jesus.
And yeah, and I decided to take the trip by myself. It was a little bit of a pilgrimage,
Mhm.
And I had no idea what to expect when I got there. I mean, I knew, Daniel Horton, I knew who he was, but I didn't really know one single person that was going to be there personally or well. So, I'm sitting on, our porch out here with my wife the day before I leave, and she goes, "So are you excited about this?" I said, actually, I'm kind of nervous. And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Okay, so let's get down to it here." I said, "I'm getting ready to jump in a car. by myself in the middle of a pandemic, drive 1,000 miles,
Yeah.
very remote place in Tennessee I've never been before, and camp for 3 days with a bunch of people I don't really know in probably extremely hot conditions, you know? And I got to be honest, it's the greatest thing that I did this year, man. I mean, I got to actually know some of the people who I knew who they were, but I didn't really, you know, I got to know them better than probably if Bonnaroo even happened this year because I got to spend some quality time with them.
David, it sounds like you described Bonnaroo.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You know,
Sounds like Bonnaroo.
I actually very much so, because the first time I went to Bonnaroo was on a whim. I was
What year
massive.
was that?
That was 2011.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
So this would have been this year was going to be huge for me because, you know, I set a goal after the third consecutive year that I was there to make my project at least a 10-year project consecutively. This was going to be the 10th year anniversary for I Am Bonnaroo, and then of course the bottom falls out, you know.
Right.
And you know, I've really got nothing to bitch about because a lot of people have had some serious hardships, and I really had none. I mean, I still have my job. All my friends and family are healthy. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's good. But you know, so there goes my 10th consecutive year, and then boom, all of a sudden the speakeasy thing pops up, and I'm like, hey, you know, this is going to be something very cool.
Just a general question before we get into your Bonnaroo experiences from year to year, but how is it as a photographer? Can you really differentiate from one year to the next what you actually get? If this is year 10, I bet you look back at 9 years ago, 8 years ago, and the pictures look pretty similar. How do you differentiate or be able to tell and especially as an artist make it different from year to year?
Well, actually, that's a big challenge because I don't really want it to come off being redundant. I did start, for me, it's always about film. Initially, I wanted it to look like Woodstock. So when I first thought about, you know, what I wanted to do as a photographer the first year that I went to Bonnaroo without having any idea what it was going to be like, I said, okay, I want it to look Woodstocky. So I went out and I bought a 1969 Nikon F. And I went down there with, you know, about 8 rolls of film, which was, I could have went through that in the first day.
I was about to say.
Yeah, that's Wednesday.
Yep. So fast forward, now I have 7 Nikons, and last year I went down there with 35 rolls of film, and I'm shooting more color in addition to black and white now, but it's still all about film. So the color film was a way for me to sort of breathe something a little bit different into it, you know.
Here's where I jump in and answer your question, David. The background behind me, LCD sound system.
Yeah.
When did he ask that question?
Before.
Oh, you're talking about he asked a question when the show wasn't on.
When the show wasn't on. If you notice the background, for the last decade or so, I've been not only the sole reporter but the sole photographer for our paper. Okay. I am not a photographer.
Yeah.
That's why I chose this picture. I take pictures. I get lucky. I take good pictures, 1 in 1,000 or whatever. And this is an example of that. I don't pretend. I never claim to be a photographer. This picture, when they came out on stage, it was so dark. If anybody saw the show, it was so dark. And it was just haze and cloud. And here I am, and I just thought, I'm just going to shoot for 3 songs, you know, that's because I'm in the pit, bam, 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 bam. Left there thinking, I got nothing. Plug the camera into the computer the next day, 9 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden this popped up, and I didn't even know I had it. Yeah. That's the difference between what I do. I think I'm pretty good at framing. I think I'm pretty good at knowing what is a decent picture, but I'm not a photographer. I can't make it happen. And that's what you're doing. And that's the reason I chose this as my background. And that's to what we're getting at. I mean, this is a project for you. I would have no idea. Brad one year gave all of us Instamatic cameras.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is a great idea.
Great idea.
Didn't work. In theory, it works. On paper, it sounds
That's what
great.
we're talking about.
In reality, it's a total disaster.
Yeah,
total disaster.
Great idea. And I mean, I literally have probably 10,000 images and maybe 20 that I'm proud of.
19 of them are his dick.
Only the one. But yeah, so that's a great question Brad asked, because I was just, as he was saying that, I was thinking, yeah, Bonnaroo has changed, but not. I mean, the hippies last year looked like the hippies 15 years ago.
Well, yeah, the reason when I look at your stuff, it's not so much artist based, it's people based. And the people and the faces, no matter if they are different faces, it doesn't feel like the aesthetic ever really changes. Because there's a certain aesthetic that is consistent no matter if it's your first Bonnaroo or your 15th. It all seems to look the same.
Yeah. Well, that's true, and partially that's definitely done by design. I found a formula for me that works, so I stick with it. And not to get too technical or whatever, but I always meter all of my shots with an incident light meter. I don't use so when you look at my photos from a light contrast standpoint, I know the film that I'm shooting really well. I know how it's going to react under different lighting conditions, which is really important because I'm not shooting digital. I don't have the luxury of looking at things as I'm shooting them on the back of my camera now. So it becomes pretty predictable from that standpoint. But again, I didn't want to. I'm always looking at my stuff, trying to figure out how to become a better photographer, and I didn't want it to become too redundant, and that's why I started experimenting a little bit with color films, and actually arrived at one that I really, really like a lot for Bonnaroo, specifically.
Now, when the other thing that I notice is you, whether it's by design or not, you really do find moments, and people, people become moments, and moments have anyway. How is it that, first off, is it something you stumble upon, or is it something you're actively going to see, and not to see, but to find? And when you find it, how do you know it?
Okay, so actually, I've gotten to know the layout of the farm really well, and this is a weird analogy, but and I'm not a hunter for whatever that's worth, but it's kind of like being a hunter, knowing it's a section of woods really well, and saying, okay, when deer season opens, this is where I'm going to put up my tree stand, and I'm going to just wait. And honestly,
that's good. That's good.
The number of shots that I come back with every year, just knowing where to be after a sub headliner show gets over at the main stage or whatever. All I have to do is stand there and wait, and it comes to me.
Right.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've done it 15 years, and I feel like I'm shooting the same pictures because you're going to get people sleeping under the tree in front of the witch. You're going to get people coming off the slide. I mean, it feels like in some ways I'm taking the same photograph. You're going to get that happy coming through the arch.
Yeah.
That's a great.
As an aside, a few years ago, we never really kept up with it, but as an aside, one really late Thursday night, our friend Nick, as we were walking back from the, I guess, some late show, whatever, and we looked down and it was already a muddy mess, and the person was literally laying in a mud pit, and he goes, "Oh, that is Bonnaroo stink." And from that moment, we decided to start documenting the Bonnaroo stink of the weekend. And it's like it happens at a certain hour every night. And you can see the stink just emitting from a human being or a situation. I wish that we would have kept up with that Instagram account because it was as fun as it could have been, but also a tad demeaning. So we sort of stopped.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But it is something that it's almost like it is almost on a timer, and you can almost find exactly who, what, when, where, and why every year at the same time. And that's why I'm so fascinated in the idea how you differentiate from one to the next. And when you look back at, okay, but put it this way: when you're done with it, when you're done with your 10 years, what are you going to do with it?
That I don't know.
Okay.
And I've had people say to me, "You're not actually going to start doing this after the 10th year," and I'm actually not ready to stop doing it, you know.
But why don't you go one year where you just enjoy yourself and not feel like you've got to carry around 16 cameras at once?
Actually, that's a great idea. You know what? You know what I might start doing honestly is start locking some of my camera gear in the trunk and removing myself from that. There's certain times of the day, like if somebody was to say, "Listen, I'm just going to shoot for 2 hours a day. What am I going to shoot?" It would be the quote unquote golden hour. And anybody that hasn't been to Bonnaroo that's a photographer that wants to take photos, I would tell them, "Hey, listen, you know, if you're planning on getting some good shots at Bonnaroo, plan on the golden hour, because not only is the light absolutely magical, but everybody's in that frame of mind where they've been out all day, they've been doing this, the temperature's starting to get divine.
That's right.
They're transitioning into the nightlife, and I'm telling you what, man, everybody starts to morph around that time. You know?
Everything starts to change. That is a great point, and it's not something that we've talked about a lot, but you're right. There is a moment of the afternoon, and golden hour is right about at 6, 7 o'clock, where the temperature starts to change. People are maybe freshly showered. They come out of hibernation for a few hours, and things just start to feel different. I love that. I love that feeling. That's a really great point. Not something we've really harnessed on this show before.
David, why did you? I mean, tell us again how you decided to go, why Bonnaroo, and then what was it that made this particular thing seem like it would be a great festival? I mean, a great project.
Okay, so I've always been, I've been a photographer since I was about 20 years old, and I've always shot film. I mean, I've shot digital, but I'm primarily a film photographer, and I'm a huge music fan. So, you know, in 2010, my daughter was going to her first year of college in upstate New York, and I got a message from my lovely wife, and she said to me, "What do you know about a music festival called Bonnaroo down in Tennessee?" And I thought that was kind of random, and I said, "I know it's a world-class music festival. Why?" And she said, "Madison, our daughter, who was a first semester college student at that point, she said she's thinking about going down to this with a bunch of her friends. You know, I'm not sure how I feel about it." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. I'm jealous as hell, you know, blah, blah, blah." So that's how I ended up going down to Bonnaroo. And I didn't go down with, you know, my daughter and her friends. I went down with another guy. But if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have been 2011. I don't know when I would have went down there, but that's the story about how I got down there.
And in that first year, you went just by yourself?
No, so honestly, one of her college girlfriends that she had just met from Long Island, we live in upstate New York, she said to my daughter Madison, "My dad wants to go down to this festival. He doesn't have anybody to go down there with." And she said, "My stepdad's actually thinking about going down." I literally met this guy. His name is Joe, by the way. Hey, Joe. I met him for the first time ever the night before him and I jumped in his car. And
That's never in a million years.
It's Bonnaroo, man. I love Bonnaroo. I love the stories.
And we still stay in contact. I mean, we're still friends, you know. But hey, you want to know something, man? We talked about music all the way down there. We shared a love for Led Zeppelin. And it was.
Oh my God, I'm wearing a Led Zeppelin shirt now, and I hate Led Zeppelin. That's amazing. How about that? How does that work?
But no, so that's pretty much how it all happened, you know. And so I have two other younger sons who are both music industry students in college. They were, I think, 5 and 9 when I first went down there, and I've been to Bonnaroo with both of them. And we were supposed to go on year 10 with a whole crew of people because it was, you know, my big 10-year anniversary, and we didn't make it down, but. You know, they went from being little kids, seeing me hop on a car and driving to something called Bonnaroo to loving the festival. They both go. They're both huge. They're both musicians, you know.
But did you do anything like this, I don't know, say closer?
You mean closer to New York?
Yeah.
Not really. I go to a lot of concerts, but, you know, I actually live, here's a true story for you. I live 25 or 30 minutes from where Mountain Jam used to be every year, and I've not once been to Mountain Jam.
Do you camp? Are you a camper?
I have to camp because I'm a purist that way. I mean, if I was a photographer in Vietnam, I
No,
would
I
want
meant
to be in the
before.
Before that, I had camped literally in my life 2 times.
Yeah, see, this is
Yeah.
it's so funny. My first Bonnaroo was what, 17, 07, which was the year my son went because he was a senior in high school, and I had the, I remember breaking, say, hey, guess what? Dad's going too.
2007 is not correct, Barry. That's not correct. I think you're like 2004.
No, I went to the first one, 02,
Yeah.
and then I didn't
Okay.
go again until 07. I think.
Okay.
I think that's right.
All
But
right.
anyway, similar. Tell my son, hey, Dad's going too. Which I thought would freak him out. He's like, I'm fine with that. Okay. Anyway,
I find this I think that we get really lost in the idea of somebody traveling for so long and so far, but I've never thrown in the wrinkle of doing it with a stranger.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I have a cap on how long I'll spend in the car to begin with a total stranger. So one time, my mom, I don't know why, and I can't tell you, I don't really remember why I was in the car with this person, but it was a total stranger that my mom had plopped me in the car with, and I had to go, I don't know, 7-8 hours with this person. And of course, me being a 16, 17-year-old asshole, and this being a mother of whatever, I don't even know her name, I remember the pain that it was sitting in a car, not speaking, and no music playing, and being completely at the mercy of this person who is a tad gassy and totally silent. I can't run the risk of that ever happening to me ever again.
Yeah.
I can't ever possibly even
Yeah.
get close to that situation. It gives me, I feel claustrophobic just thinking about it.
Yeah.
You.
I mean, honestly, if I really thought about it, I think my desire to get down there and check this thing out and especially take photos sort of superseded any other kind of reserve that I had about it.
And so now what's the setup like? You're going to have how many people come with you this year, and just the same car, or?
No. I have people. So my daughter lives in Nashville now. She's a teacher. She was trying to get the minimum number of people together for us to do a group camping thing for the first time this year. She actually signed up to do group camping, but there was multiple people going down from different states and different cars.
To put a bow on this thing, so there you are, your wife comes to you and says, hey, have you heard of this thing? Your daughter wants to go. You end up going with a stepdad who you met the night before to a farm in Manchester, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, you
Sounds like the start of a horror movie.
You drive, 12 hours to hang out with Taco in an even more remote farm in Tennessee with people you've never said hello to before.
Well, that's even strange. Yes, that's strange. That's strange. But think about the idea that you've been to Bonnaroo 9 years and you didn't know the people that you were going to be meeting up with. That's pretty surprising too. You'd think that after so many years, we would just know all of each other.
Yeah, that's actually true. So Daniel Horton was. I knew who he was, but I didn't know him. He's the guy that is part owner of the Real Roo Bus.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Daniel and Charlotte own the Roo Bus. Yep. Daniel might be the happiest, most positive human being that I know. So
not me?
Next to Lord Taco.
Yeah, look at him. Just look at him. Yeah. He's radiating positivity.
And that's a respectable beard, by the way. I like that.
Thank you. I trimmed it
yesterday's.
Yeah, and it's grown out since.
So, but Daniel Horton. So I saw something. Him and I were messaging each other. So we did have a conversation, but not. We never really spent any time at Bonnaroo together. And then he was the one who actually asked me if I was interested in going, and I was, without even hesitating. I was working from home at that point because of COVID, and I just said, hell yeah. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Do you ever think about, like, because you're a photographer, your photos are so good, you ever thought about adding video to it? You ever think about doing videography?
I actually have, but there's so many other people who are doing that so well. Human Being Media, phenomenal work. They do a lot of festivals. They do it great. I'll tell you one thing I did think about doing. This would be an extreme labor of love. Was going down there with like a 16 millimeter film camera and just shooting film bursts of people. Like
Yeah.
seconds film bursts, and then seeing what I can come up with from that standpoint.
And when you okay, and this is because we're dorky. We're dorky about the minutia of some of this stuff. Do you get a media pass?
Okay, so probably not until my 6th or 7th year did I get a media pass.
Okay, because they don't let just anybody walk in with 6 cameras around there.
No, and you want to know something? I had to pare it down. I had to pare it down to get my gear in there. So I had to really think about what I needed to accomplish, what I was looking to accomplish. And before I had a media pass, it was literally one camera body, one lens, and a light meter, and a hip pack full of film. And when I go through the security checkpoints and they're opening your hip packs and they're pulling shit out, and I'm like, that's.
Oh, please be careful. Please be careful. Yeah.
But full disclosure, I mean, I had to sneak stuff in, and then it probably wasn't until the 7th year, I think, I actually got a media pass.
Now, I have to ask, because normally they don't give it to you unless you're with some sort of entity. You just got it all on your own, huh?
Well, what happened was I was pelting Bonnaroo with stuff on social media, and I didn't think they were paying attention to it because they never really acknowledged anything that I was doing. And then one time, bam, they featured one of my photos, and then they tagged me and credited me in the photo, which was a great day for me.
That's awesome.
And I literally said, hey, thanks a lot. You guys just made my year for doing that. And then probably a month later, not even, they used another one. And after about the 3rd one that they used in a short period of time, I messaged them and I said, hey, is there any way I can get access? I'm not really that interested in shooting the bands. I want to shoot the people, but I need better access to get in there with my gear.
Yeah.
That's when they started hooking me up every year.
That's a great question, Brad. I'm glad you picked up on that, and that's a great insight, because I think probably in year 1, that's the kind of thing you and I bragged about that they do very well, is pay attention.
Yeah.
They paid attention. They saw what was working. It's a cool thing. You were doing cool work, and
it lends to the overall point of how this is made for and created by a community of people that and if I hate to say, look, not everybody's going to get one, but if you prove yourself and you show yourself to be not a dick,
well,
they're probably gonna
seriously, a lot of events, the first answer is no.
Yeah.
We need to shut this down. And they said, hey, this guy's doing great work. How do we make it easy for him?
Yeah.
And they've done that for us, which is why I say that. And then I think it's because, we're celebrating what they do.
All right, so you do a lot of concerts. You're a big music guy. In the 10 years since, have you done any other sort of festival?
New Orleans Jazz Festival.
Come on down. I live 2 blocks away.
Actually, Russ told me that, and I was like, that's one of my wife's favorite places in the world. Not that we've traveled the world, but we have a lot of love for New Orleans, man.
Let me tell you. So I got here 2 days after Mardi Gras. And I was like, miss Mardi Gras, but it's probably for the best. We don't need to be here when Mardi Gras starts, when we first get here. But what we were very excited, like, oh man, but we live 2 blocks away from Jazz Fest. We live 2 blocks away from Voodoo Fest. We are within walking distance of every sort of, for festival season. I mean, it's a big deal. Every week there's some other type of thing that is in and around our neighborhood.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, this is amazing. This is the perfect spot. so excited about Jazz Fest, and then 10 days after I got here, COVID hits, and I'm sitting at my house for the next 6 months.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
You know.
And you guys
Yeah,
got hard.
if I didn't think your ego, I would think maybe you were to blame. But
Oh, I'm to blame. I'm to blame.
yeah, that's even a little big for your ego.
It's all Brad's fault. That's the theme.
Yeah. My old radio partner used to tell me all the time, everything's Brad's fault. Everything's Brad's fault.
So David, I mean, you've not done this. We've established this is not something you do all the time. This is the one festival. What's the takeaway? What keeps you going back, especially considering the idea that we've talked about is the photos don't necessarily change, or do they? I don't want to put words into your mouth, but what is it that brings you back?
Well, I go back for the festival, but I'm so passionate about being a photographer. I mean, I do shoot other things that aren't music related for personal work. But I go back because I want to keep feeding the project. And, just when I start wondering how many people are paying attention, I'll get some really great messages from people, that I know that are paying attention, because they're like, hey, here's a photo you took of me 5 years ago,
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I do, I've done gallery shows that were of the Bonnaroo project specifically in upstate New York a few times. I've never made a single dollar from the project. And because I shoot film and film is expensive and processing is expensive, it costs me a shit ton of money to do it every year. It's a labor of love, I
was about to say, since you're on film, like you were saying earlier, and it just now hit me, you said it, you don't know what you have. So when you go back to the car every night, it's not like you get to review what you got that day. Yeah, Jesus.
I'm like a little kid at Christmas time. I come home and I get my film developed and I go pick up, 20 rolls of film. And it's like, I can't wait to get home and start transparency scanning these things and looking.
So that means your Bonnaroo experience goes from the 1st of June till the end of July. You're probably working on this stuff for 6 weeks afterwards.
Well, even longer than that.
Oh, wow.
Because what I do is I never, if somebody's worth taking a photo of, I never usually just take one photo. I'll take 3 or 4 frames. And even if they're all good, there's always one that's clearly the best. But I edit my photos. I don't alter them. Well, some of I alter heavily, and it's obvious. But for the most part, I'm a purist when it comes to this stuff. I try to keep it real, But for me, it's the rediscovery. 6 months later, I'll scan a strip of film that I hadn't scanned yet, and images will pop up on my monitor, and sometimes I'll literally get goosebumps. I'll be like, shit, look at that, man.
That's why I posted this picture. I can't tell you. And it's you're not getting a good representation. It's a much bigger frame.
Yeah, Barry's in the way. I can't see the picture.
Well, some of Barry is in the way. He disappears on occasion.
The band is actually in the full frame. You can't see it, but that's the moment, David, that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got that image.
Yeah.
For me, dumb luck. You know what you're doing. The other sort of inside baseball question I have is, camera, you're carrying 6 of them. It's a lot of weight.
Well,
Are you shooting all day long, or do you take time off? See, I leave mine back at the camp sometimes, and then inevitably there's the great picture and I don't have the camera, or yeah.
That's the way that it works. I get up in the morning. I have a routine where I get up and I walk into Bonnaroo and I head to Dave's Mini Donuts to get some coffee. And from the minute I leave underneath the canopy, I've got a camera on my shoulder and I'm just scanning. I'm just looking for something to take a photo of. And I've actually gotten some really good shots by doing that.
Yeah, you have to. That's what you're there for. But I don't think people understand how much work that is.
It's a labor of love.
Well, yeah, but with all that work, when do you actually do the actual festival? When do you shut it down for the day and go see something?
Usually the late night sets. I have certain bands that I have to see where I'm totally immersed in the situation. There's no doubt about it. I look at the schedule, and I'll tell my friends, because whoever I go with every year, sometimes I feel bad for them because I'm like, hey guys, I'll catch you later. I'm kind of a lone wolf. If you see me there, chances are I'm going to be by myself.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the schedule in the morning, and I'm telling people that I'm with, hey, listen, I'll see you at 4:30 at the Witch stage because I'm going to go check out this band, and then I'm fully immersed in that show.
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing that's strange about Camp Nut Butter in that we've all been sort of, the main group of people have been there together for 10 years or so, but none of us ever go to shows together. It's never something like, yeah, let's all go. Never. I mean, there might be one show a weekend that we'll all try to go together, but and mostly it's because, Brad can be a diva and doesn't want to stand with them. Where they're going to be standing, he's got his own spot next to the stage that becomes a
it is partly that we don't all have the same access, but it's also just because we don't do that to each other. It's see ya.
Yeah, and by the way, that's what makes camp so much fun is when you get back, you have no idea who's going to be there. You have literally no idea as to who you're going to stumble upon, and it's perfect for someone like me who's completely ADD, who needs something new at all times.
So back to the project, David. Does the as a reporter, it sounds to me like the fact that you came down and did the thing with Daniel and Charla and them fits perfectly into the project.
100%.
Okay, I was going to ask if it became, now that's part of the story.
It's definitely a part of the story, and the thing of it is it's, even though it wasn't at Bonnaroo, it was the weekend that it was supposed to happen, and everybody that was there was a Bonnaroovian. And I had people message me after I started posting those photos saying, hey, where's that stream at Bonnaroo on the farm? I've never seen that before. I want to find that. And, if you kind of really read my really short captions, you'd realize that it wasn't really taken at the farm. But it definitely fits well in there, I think,
There is a body of water at Bonnaroo. And I don't want to be too, I'll be honest, I don't know if it's still there, but for years and years and years, where guest camping used to be, it's now where volunteers camp. But there is a giant bowl of water that sits back on the edge of the KOA and where the now camping area for the volunteers are. It's a big, giant thing of water. And I don't know if it's like spillage, but for some reason, our guy at Camp Nut Butter always wanted to camp next to it. And he didn't realize it's just a big bucket of mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And what in the world? And every time we get there, you're like, like front property, am I right? I'm like, no, you're not. It's all mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like West Nile virus in the makings there.
Exactly.
It's absolutely miserable.
David, did your I think you said his name was Joe, the guy that went with you first year. Has he gone back?
Okay, he hasn't gone back, but he was going to go back this year.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you had a lot going riding on this year. That's
We send each other Christmas cards, I mean, so we both got to watch our daughters go through their whole college thing, and my daughter got her master's, and now they're both responsible young adults, probably more responsible than I am for sure. And we're still doing the thing,
Well, this is remarkable. Not only is the story great, but also you're our second New Yorker this season. You're the second New Yorker we talked to.
Oh, that's true.
Because Bill was from New York, remember?
Yep.
So, and that's that's a long drive. Well, that's when you think about like the actual shows you've seen. When you say you go late night guy, what is the show that stands out to you after 9 years of Bonnaroo?
Oh, geez. Well, the show that stands out to me, not necessarily a late night show, has got to be Paul McCartney.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him, yeah. And I know a lot of...
He did something with Kanye, I heard.
I know a lot of people kind of tell the same tale, but I mean, it sounds weird, but that was almost like an emotional thing for me, And I wasn't even necessarily a huge Beatles fan or a Paul McCartney fan. It was the 85,000 people singing every word to Hey Jude was
Yeah.
How do you explain that to somebody?
Yeah, I know. And it's not just any other show. Because, I saw it at ACL Fest later on that year. Just not the same thing, just not the same thing. It's not the same collective experience. Although it was probably a carbon copy of the way that Paul is, affected on stage, and he's using all the same inflections of when he's talking about his friend John. I get it, but it just doesn't feel the same. It didn't feel the same as Bonnaroo. You're exactly right about that.
That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing for me,
Yeah.
And this year, this past year, should I say, 2019, probably one of my standout moments was being in a pit for Gojira. Gojira is a French metal band. I don't know if you guys. I knew nothing about Gojira when I went to Bonnaroo, but I decided that I was going to get in the pit for that show because I felt like it had potential from a photographer standpoint. And I got to be honest with you, man. When they came out and started playing, it felt like I was standing next to a 747. It just it was ridiculous. So I'm in the pit with other photographers, and they're shooting the stage, and meanwhile I'm down on one knee with my back against the stage, shooting the people on the rail, and I could feel my shirt slapping me in the back from sound wave that was just colliding into me. And I was just like, wow, this is absolutely incredible,
I've told this before. I was in the photography pit for My Morning Jacket when they came out and started Circuital, I think, and they hit that opening note and the same thing. And the photographer next to me put his camera down on the giant speaker and said, "I think I just wet myself."
I totally get that. I mean, it didn't happen to me, but it was, the thing of it is I was trying to concentrate on what I was shooting with all of this chaos going on around me. And what I started doing was just, I had a power winder on my camera. I just threw it on and just started hitting the shutter button. And I knew, I had literally reloaded my film before I got booted out of the pit because I was shooting so many frames. And when I walked out of there, I was so excited because I said, man, if I get one frame off of that rail sequence, it's total gold. And I got.
What'd you get? You get something good?
I got a few, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you have to wear some sort of earplug thing. You're having to cover yourself up. What is your earplug of choice?
I have to say that I don't wear earplugs, which is a bad deal.
Oh, stop it!
I don't either. Yeah.
I know it sounds really bad. Like I said, both of my sons are musicians, and they both advocate for that. But
I can't. I'm sitting here listening to you, and again, I carry a SD card that'll hold 10,000 images. I can't imagine the stress and the stress plus excitement that you're going through, wondering what you're going to get. Because I mean, I get it almost immediately.
It's exactly what you just said. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Man. Well, what a story. I appreciate you showing up and doing it every year. I'm excited to see what it turns into after 10 years. I mean, I don't think you even know what it's going to be, do you?
No, I mean, ultimately, I'd love to do a book that's just the project. I definitely have more than enough material to do that, and people have suggested that to me. But at this point, even though this was my 10th year, I'm not totally done doing it. So I hate to go through the expense of putting together something like that, and then 2 years from now, take the best frigging shot that I've ever taken in my life at Bonnaroo and not have it be part of that book,
Yeah.
Well, think about this. So your trip down here again with the Rubus and that bunch, I think is a tremendous chapter. But think about what the next one's going to be like.
Exactly. It's going to be so much.
It's going to be around it, but we haven't really considered what the energy is going to be like when we actually are allowed to do something, assuming it's going to be good. I would think it's going to be amazing. The release, the energy, the excitement.
I can't wait. Yeah. The thing of it is one of the things that I've used to describe the experience to people, and you really can't that haven't been there, is in a lot of ways it's really a celebration of life, and even more so than ever next year. for the people who look forward to the festival every year, who now don't take it for granted. I mean, they're going to be celebrating life, like 110% pedal to the metal. And I'm bringing more film to shoot that, man. I'll tell you that.
I've said this since the first one that I went to, and I mean this, and it sounds corny, whatever, make fun of me, but Bonnaroo is the way things should be. Every time I leave there, I think this is the way people should treat people and should act. And it's really not that complicated. Why don't we do it?
Yeah.
Everything from picking up your own trash to just saying hello to people and high-fiving people. I mean, it's really pretty simple, and it's not that hard. So, yeah, it'll be fun. It's going to be exciting to see what happens when it happens.
I'd like to believe that, I wasn't an asshole before Bonnaroo, before I ever went, but I can tell you that it's definitely had a profound effect on me as a human being. There's no doubt about it. I mean,
it's a great question. Barry, have I become less of an asshole?
During that week?
Okay. Like, I became less of an asshole that week. I think we need to probably clear that with Brian Stone.
No, I've seen you high-five people during that week.
I don't know if that's true.
No, I understand what you're saying, David, and I agree. I literally leave there thinking it's really not that hard. Just do this all the time, and the world would be a whole lot better. And I think that's why we're talking.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing that I think Daniel. I give him so much credit. Daniel he lives it 365.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I just think that's awesome. So
how far outside of the city are you, to say?
So I live in a small little river town called Cooksaki. It's 2 hours north of the city on the Hudson, right on the Hudson River.
So even further past Poughkeepsie, huh?
Yeah, and the first time when I went down to New Jersey and went down there, we just didn't handle the road trip that well. It literally took us 20 hours to get there. We drove all through the night to get there. We were spent by the time we got there, and then we couldn't sleep because our tent was like a microwave at 10 o'clock in the morning. And
but what was the problem with the road trip? What did you do wrong?
Just kept making too many stops, and
yeah. I blame Joe. Am I right?
Yeah. I just blame Joe because it was his car and he was driving. But even with forget about what Waze tells you. I mean, even with a normal amount of stops, it's a 16+ hour trip for me from my driveway. It's 998 miles.
Wow.
But I love it, man.
Wow. Well, hopefully we get to see you again. Get to see you at some point, maybe in Tennessee in the future.
Yeah.
Next time, maybe a plane. We try a plane.
Only if
Especially if you've got your daughter who lives in Nashville. She's got all the gear there. Just fly into Nashville at this point.
I kind of thought about that, but part of it's the journey. If I have the flexibility to drive, I don't mind doing it, man. I'm kind of a road trip kind of person,
All right.
My wife and I are going to Nashville in a couple of weeks. We're really looking forward to that.
There you go, Barry. You should go meet up.
I'd love to meet Barry.
See?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Just put Barry on the spot.
I know Taco will be there. Barry's willing to do it so long as he can get in bed by 6. He's good. As long as bed by 6, humidifier is on by 5. He's fine.
6:30. Gotta watch, Matlock.
Gotta watch the stories.
Gotta watch my stories.
Yeah. All right.
Come on, man. Love to have you. Come on, we'll spend some time.
Before we get off here, do we have any? Did we want to run through some emails, some questions? Do we have any of those that we wanted to go through?
So we did get one question.
Okay.
And let me pull it up. This comes from Phil, one of our Patreons. And Phil says, which artists have you been listening to during quarantine do you think would make good additions to the Bonnaroo lineup for 2021? That's a pretty good question.
That's a fantastic question.
Not a bad question. Well, first off, I'll take it in 2 parts and answer the version that I want to answer, and then I'll answer his. The thing that I've been listening to the most of, aside from Repeats, Wind in My Sails, out now.
It is out now.
In stores now.
I
How
found
the What podcast?
There's 2 things in particular one ties back to the podcast. I've been obsessed with this. I just stumbled upon Billy Ocean's piece of vinyl. Literally, this 25-year-old, 30-year-old piece of vinyl has brought me so much joy. It's just the best thing you could ever buy. If you find it anywhere, suddenly it is literally as perfect of a album to put on for any occasion that you have during the day, and it just hit after hit after hit. I'm in love with this piece of vinyl. But the other thing that I'm obsessed with is a recommendation from Rust and Wax. They sent me a album that I have been listening to on repeat. That would be a perfect Bonnaroo artist for a Sunday morning slot, that thing that we've always wanted, that church sermon that's happening on Sunday around 1 o'clock. Ural Thomas and the Pain. Literally, the band's called The Pain.
Wow.
But it's Ural Thomas, Ural Thomas and the Pain. And it is just slapper after slapper, banger after banger, just horns aplenty, big, beautiful, Charles Bradley-esque horns and soul. I'm in love with it, and it's because of the Rust and Wax people, so I give them all credit in the world.
Everything's better with horns, man.
Yeah. Well, don't say that to repeat, because Kristen cannot stand horns.
She hates horns.
I learned this from her the other day. She will not listen to things with horns in it. So
That's right. I want My Morning Jacket. I want another 4-hour My Morning Jacket, Bonnaroo, maybe even 2 sets, maybe even Friday, Sunday type of. I want My Morning Jacket because I think they're the perfect Bonnaroo act.
Yeah, that's the first place I ever heard of My Morning Jacket. I love that new album. That new album is fantastic.
That's what I want.
Lord Taco, what about you?
Speaking of Rust and Wax, I ordered a couple of records from them that were Radiohead records, and I know Radiohead's played, but I would love to see Radiohead again. EOB was supposed to be my Radiohead experience this year.
Well, if there's a 2021, they're going on tour in 2021, so you might get some.
Man, that would be great. There's so much from the 2020 lineup that I wanted to see that I still want to see. I kind of just, I know it can't happen, but it would be great if 2021 was just the 2020 lineup. Like, I would be super happy with that.
Well, look, here's what we've learned through COVID. Doing what I do for a living, they've studied, people's listening habits, and especially the radio stations that are doing really, really well. Spotify data, Apple Music data. What they found was people in quarantine and through COVID had turned to what they call comfort food. And not many people are engaging too much in new product. And most of the listener, especially the radio listener, is choosing stuff that they already know and stuff that they're familiar and comfortable with. Because in times of peril, times of crisis, people always turn to comfort food. So
that's a good point.
So it's both troubling and understandable why if you've got a new project out, why it probably doesn't have as much heat on it as it probably could. So if anybody's listening to something new right now, boy, bring it on. I'm all in, because I even feel a tad empty. I feel a tad and I'm a consumption junkie. I listen to nothing but new stuff. I hate anything that I've already heard. Mm-hmm. So to not really feel activated in that way sort of bums me out.
The avenue's dried up, right? I mean, you would normally hear something as an opening band at a show, maybe, or
right,
at a festival or something. So yeah, it makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You guys familiar with the Australian band Psychedelic Porn Crumpets?
I can't say that I am.
Nope.
I missed the porn crumpet.
No, but tell me more.
Okay,
Crumpets.
Crumpets, yeah. It's kind of a really weird name, but let me tell you, it's a great band. Actually, my sons, who are music industry students, turned me on to them. They're the band that I would love to see at Bonnaroo sometime. I think it's inevitable. But if you want to hear one track that kind of defines them, they have a song called "I Found God in a Tomato."
I love it already.
Boy, your kids really like weed.
It sounds like a joke, but it's no joke. You guys are gonna dig it.
I love it.
I'll check it out.
Check it out, man.
Found God in a tomato.
I
Don't
found God in
don't
a
ask my arthritic hands that.
Okay.
Barry, anything else? Any other questions? Anything else we want to get to before we
No, I
tap
just
out?
wanted to say before we came on, I had reached out to Drew Holcomb just randomly yesterday, actually, and said hello, Drew Holcomb, of our Moon River Festival, and asked him if he had anything to say. You know, they were supposed to have Moon River next month, and he just said, like everybody else, really going to miss all you guys and look forward to next year. So. Just wanted to throw that out there that the musicians are feeling it like everybody else. I mean, you know, I can't even imagine what the festival planners, you know, I mean, I know what we're going through, so they're going through it too, is the reason that I mention it. So that and no, I guess this was a lot of fun. David, thanks so much for giving us so much time. And
Yeah, no kidding.
blows
Yeah.
my mind the story. I mean, from from meeting a total stranger to driving 20 hours to 10 years later,
Yeah.
doing it again. And
Yeah, you have a shirt on right now that says "Fearless." It's damn near crazy. Damn crazy.
I just
Yeah.
and I think I think Russ is gonna play audio later in a minute from somebody who called into the phone thingy.
Oh, do we have a thing? Oh,
We have a
that's
phone
really,
thingy.
I
Yeah.
forgot about that. So Barry texted us and said he wanted to open up the phone line again and have people text in or call in messages. And this was the text thread that we had that was, I mean, enormously entertaining to me. Barry says, oh God, let me find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking, this is from Lord Taco. I was thinking we could maybe do a Patreon Q&A where our Patreon submit questions. Barry responds, that works. Along those lines, I really do think the phone thingy can become a thing.
The phone
And
thing.
I responded, Barry's a regular Alexander Graham Bell. I think this phone thingy can become a thing.
It's got legs. This phone
so-
thingy's got legs.
So AGB, tell me what we got, buddy.
This phone thingy's got legs.
Yeah.
So, anyway, my point is when you hear this guy's story, on top of what David has shared with us, it's just stunning to me the the uh, the depths that Bonnaroo reaches across the country, and it just, I mean, we kind of talk about it, but I'm still surprised every time we do this, Brad and Russ, how many people this festival has touched in ways that, you know, we don't even know.
Well,
So
Yeah.
Well, Taco, can we play it now?
Hey guys, big fans. I've been following you on YouTube and Spotify for a while. I just want to share a Bonnaroo memory that I have. So Bonnaroo was actually my first music festival ever, and it was last year, 2019. My story's a bit different. So the morning of day 2, I found out that my grandmother had passed, and we were 9 hours away from home, so there was and I didn't drive, so there was no way I could really get back. We knew she was ill. It wasn't like a surprise, but it was kind of rough that I wasn't able to say goodbye. And later that day, I believe it was day 2, I'm probably getting the days wrong. I just remember that we were waiting for Hosier to start, and I was not really the biggest fan. I didn't dislike his music, but just not someone I listened to a lot. And right before it started, someone just handed me a notebook and a pen, and it was just something where you write a note and you pass. And I realized that was my moment to say goodbye to my grandmother. So I wrote her a note with a letter, and then I passed it along. And then Hosier started as the sun was setting, and it was just kind of a really powerful and spiritual feeling that I had. I'm sure this is probably a bit different than what you guys are normally getting, but just wanted to share that story. Yeah, have a good one.
David, I mean, like what you're saying, you basically had a conversation with Daniel from Rubus,
Yeah.
and I did too, and it basically ended up with, here's an address, show up at this time. You know, That's what I did. I had no idea what I was coming into.
Yeah.
But for me, that drive was like an hour.
Okay. So you live
Well,
in
honestly, but in the Volkswagen bus, it could have been 22 hours. Let's be
It
honest.
very could have easily. But at any point, if I were to break down, I could just camp right there and just wake up.
A little different.
But yeah, I couldn't imagine actually driving the length that you drove to go to that. I mean, especially not knowing any more than I did. Just here's an address. It's a field in Tennessee. Show up, and we did, and of course it turned out to be wonderful. But
Yeah,
I was
They've made movies about that kind of thing.
yeah. Like if I showed up and it was terrible, I could just go back home.
Banjos usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys that look like Ned Beatty. It's usually the point that I start running.
right. Well, I kind of made a bad joke with my wife saying, hopefully, if nobody hears from me in a few days, they don't just start finding parts of my camera equipment scattered through the woods somewhere.
No,
You start
that's
sending
not
out
what
your
they
location
find.
to people. Be like, this is where to find me if you don't hear from me.
Yeah.
All right, one final thing to go through the Patreons, Barry Corder. You want to run through the Patreons before we go?
can do that. We
All
can
right,
do
please
that.
do.
Thanks to the Patreons: Karen Sheets, Timothy Proctor, Aaron Carlson, Liesl Condor, David Grimes, Phil Hanley, Chloe Hannon, Benjamin Wells, Tori, Musical Antlers, Mary T, Skylar Melanie, and Jesse Feldman over there at the Rust and Wax. Parker Reed, Dan Sweeney, Joshua Herndon, Lauren Edholm, Nick Yeatman, Tyrone Baskett, Evan Brown, Ross McNamara, William Richards, Clay Wilhoit, Sean McCarthy, Ryan Mathewson, Chelsea Davis, Lucy Young, Jason Hazelbaker, DK, Linda Doles, Jacob Marty, Andrew T. McBride, Justin Nigro, spoke to him this week, David Solano, Catherine Riccio, Meredith Rittman, Daniel and Charlotte Horton, Sean McCain, David Henson, Brooke Tussey, and Ella up on Signal Mountain.
There you go. All right.
Don't forget our two new ones. We've got two new Patreons.
Ooh, tell.
Madison Hadziko.
Okay. Good.
Hope I'm saying that right. And then Riley Benson was our new one.
All right.
Yeah, good for you. Thanks for doing that. I forgot
Very
about
exciting.
that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine we got two new ones in a year when Bonnaroo didn't happen? It
Didn't
still
even happen. Yeah.
blows
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah, no kidding. And I guess we still got another show to come up. We've got more we're doing. This is nuts.
Yeah, no, we've still got a Patreon to talk to, and we've got some other surprises.
Okay.
All
All
hope-
right.
continue to call in the phone thingy.
Yeah, what's the phone thingy? What's the number to the phone thingy?
The number to the phone thingy is 423-667-7877.
Which spells that we found out the other day, sput.
Also spells RUSS.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that.
Amahako, as I said
Gotcha.
earlier. It spells
Yeah.
Rose. David, wow, man, thanks for
Yeah.
giving us so much time.
David, thank you so much, and thanks for keeping the Bonnaroo spirit alive, man. I love your photos; they're really, really well done. At what again is the URL?
Yeah. Shoot, yeah. Give a plug.
It's basically I Am Bonnaroo on Facebook and Instagram. I do have the domain name registered, but I'm lazy and I don't have my website up yet.
Where
But
did
hey,
the name come? I meant to ask you that earlier. Where did the name? I mean, that's a pretty bold. Is that something that you'd use for other projects, or is that just for this?
No, literally, I use it just for this project, and it's kind of weird for me because people will see me at the festival and they'll say, "Hey, are you that Bonnaroo? I am Bonnaroo guy?" And I'm not I Am Bonnaroo. The people that are in the photos,
right?
Yeah.
they are Bonnaroo. This project is for them, about them. I'm archiving lives every time I press the shutter button down.
That's awesome. At I Am Bonnaroo. That's awesome. Very good. And by the way, if you need help building a website, I think we got the guy for you sitting right there.
I can probably help you out.
There you go.
Awesome.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Anything else before we go?
Yeah, thank you guys for doing what you do and keeping this all year round too, man. I mean, I think the first podcast that I watched of yours, I literally stumbled across, and it was one that you guys were doing in a parking lot somewhere. and you had a lot of Daniel's crew there. Some of the Bonnaroo guys, I think, were there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did that last November with the Rubus crew and some of the what was it, the Wu-Tang Clan?
Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was hashtag at the Moxie. At
Yes,
the,
we did it at the
Chattanooga.
Moxie Hotel in Chattanooga, and it was kind of a last-minute thing we threw together and said, let's make a video and put it out.
Yeah.
So
I actually shared it with some of my friends, and it's a good feed for the off season, as they say. You know what I mean?
It is. And when you talk to them, what did they say about my hair?
Well, I was going to tell you, you got the best hair in the business, but
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Uh-oh.
Good. All right. Good. Well, we appreciate you, and thanks for listening and being such a good Bonnaroo patron, if you will. You embody the spirit of the festival, that is for sure.
Hey, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, buddy. We'll see you soon. Thanks,
good to
guys.
see you again, David. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Journey through the stories that define the artists playing Bonnaroo. Who are they? What are they? What will you see? The what? Which bands? This year, that matter. With Brad Steiner and Barry Corder.